Recently, I've been repeatedly asked why I wanted to work with punks on my Director's Lab project. Actually, even more directly, someone asked me this question. Why does punk need theatre? She went on to say that punks have their art and their music. What else can theatre add to that? They don't need theatre, don't waste your time. In the last few weeks, I've been contemplating this question, and I was almost certain that I set myself up for absolute failure. Theatre had nothing to offer punk, at least not anything that punk wanted. And it was getting increasingly difficult to not try and enforce the discipline and rigor of theatre into punk like a dictator. Right up till last week, I felt like I was stuck. And then I realized something. I had the question all wrong. And it was so obvious. It wasn't so much punk needing theatre. The question was really, why does theatre need punk? Sure, I just swapped a few words around and things like that. And anyone could have guessed it, right? But I had a good long think about it. And it made me realize that I wasn't making theatre with punks. They were making theatre by themselves, and I just happened to be at the right place at the right time. So why does theatre need punk? Here are some lessons I've learned in the past few months. Actually, in the past year or so, not just a few months. Lesson number 1, punk asks that we question everything. Sure, absolutely everything. Someone once told me that punk is extremely hard work. Finding the answers for everything can be really tiring. You have to go onto Wikipedia, Google things, read books, research, so that you grow and learn. Punk requires us to constantly seek answers, just as questions form the basis of theatre work. Every punk or theatrical endeavor begins with a question. But if you ask the right questions, you will see that the answers are not always important. However, we have learned not to ask certain questions, especially those that force us to confront parts of ourselves that we don't like. Don't shy away from those questions. Only when we learn to ask even those painful questions can we begin to provoke, uncover, and challenge. So don't be afraid to ask, why are we doing this? What are we trying to say? What are we doing? Where are we going? Is this right or wrong? Does it matter? Everything matters. The more questions you ask, the clearer everything becomes. And don't let anyone tell you what you can or cannot do. No one is in any position to be the authority on anything. Authority is to be broken down. Authority exists to keep everything in some abstract order, and this order means nothing in the world of theatre, where life spontaneity reigns. Theatre must learn to embrace anarchy and question everything. Lesson number 2, do it yourself. Because nobody is going to do it for you. We live in a world where there is an unspoken need to prove you don't need something before it is presented to you on a silver plate. Think about how scholarships are awarded, how grant money is allocated, and how people will only offer something to you if they can gain something from you in return. In punk, as it should be in theatre, do it yourself. I'm lost where I'm yes. Even if you have no money, no support, no idea, just start somewhere by yourself and carve out a space for yourself. And then try to exist beyond that space. Make do with what is available and make the best of it. There's no one out there more dependable than yourself. And when you depend on no one else, then there is no one to answer to. Imagine that freedom, just to try whatever you want to do. I think for theatre to grow, we need to remember that the best way to do it is DIY. Which brings me to this next point. If you never try, you never know. Fail gloriously and shamelessly. Walk out of that failure with dignity, knowing that the product is not the important thing. Getting started is already half the battle won. Sure, you might lose a few bucks here and there, or have your pride bruised as you go through it. Or you might even lose your credibility, or worse, your confidence. of the Zubir Syed classic Semoga Bahagia, reimagined as a pop-punk song. Semoga Bahagia means may you find happiness, and it's a song about self-empowerment, sung by children every 1st of October. My point is, just keep trying. You'll either make it through or die with the knowledge that you gave it your best shot. Either way, you win. Lesson number 4. Theatre, like punk, is about being human. Because you are, after all, human. Punk at its essence is about how to be human and how to live by the acknowledgement of our humanity. Theatre similarly reflects our humanity in its exploration of our relationships between each other and with the rest of the world. But we're not here to get existentialists and try to understand the meaning of life. Punk prompts us who do theatre to remember our own humanity. At that point, maybe you'll stop beating yourself up and let yourself go. Maybe you'll gain confidence to question everything. See point number 1. And you can be more than your limitations if you first understand what those limitations are. And when you remember that everyone around you is human, then maybe you will see that we all have our struggles, and in those struggles, we're not all that different from one another. Then maybe we'll learn to be kinder to one another. Lesson number 5. Look around you now at your brothers and sisters. We may not always agree. We may not always stand together. But you are never standing alone. Even if the majority disagrees with you, there is bound to be someone out there who hears you and agrees with you. There's someone out there you can touch. You can't change everyone, and it will probably take a while, but it only takes one person to make it worth your while. It doesn't take much for someone to have your back, so don't worry about it. You're not alone. But also remember this. It's your eyes, your mouth, your nose, your hair, your body. And your own words, your own thoughts, your own questions, and your own life. Embrace who you are. Do whatever you want. We're not meant to be robots. See point number 4. And we're not all made the same. Celebrate the fact that you have your own beliefs and your own ways. And remember this too. Your individuality is as important as everyone else's. So respect that everyone is unique. Be who you want to be, and respect that everyone has an equal right to be who they want to be. Respect doesn't always have to be earned. Sometimes giving it freely yields more than you can imagine. Finally, lesson number 7. Don't judge a book by its cover. First impressions count until you realize that there is so much more beneath the surface. When you question everything, see point number 1, you will see that nothing is ever what it seems. Even in the theatre, the surface is meant to be unwrapped. So go beyond the obvious and go beyond what you think you know, and allow yourself the space to get to know different people and things. Take your nose out of your own prejudices, be free from judgment, keep on learning. Every lesson here seems obvious enough, but I have allowed every single one to hit me square in the face, and it's made me realize that I don't always know what I know, and I don't always have the answer. The theatre, my theatre, needs punk. The process so far has not been easy. It's been a journey of learning and unlearning and learning again. I'm still afraid. I'm still making decisions based on things that I fear, and I still fear judgment. But when I remember the lessons here, I feel like I can continue to question, to create, to take a chance, to be human, to help others, to be myself, and to take off my blinkers. And above all, to grow. so that I can continue to do all these things over and over again. I prepared something that I would like to share with everyone. I don't know, do we have the license for that? Shoot.
One mic.
Yeah? Oh, sorry. Yes, sir. You're getting close to the point, all these questions you were asking, but you fell short just before when the people started questioning. All your answers couldn't keep them from coming round swinging. All their lies and their hate and their persistent fear-mongering, they don't want to hear your truth. All you say is irrelevant by your opening your mouth, despite the senses were threatened. They will spin their web of lies and ensnare you. Even use you as a puppet, pull the strings that control you. It's a bloody disaster. Every part of your inside screams out in deafening silence for the hope of respite. And then one day, there will be no screaming no more. Each part of you is dying. There will be no encore. You don't have to get there. You don't have to die because someone once said to you, I will survive. But you have to know why. You can't just sit and stare. Take pride in your own actions. Let them know that you care. Start with small baby steps. Change takes more than a day. Remember those things that used to make you so afraid. But if you never try, you'll never know what you can own. Don't cower at your flesh and bone. Being human's what you know. So be it. Cause you are not alone. Look at all these people throwing punches in the air to your song. You can do anything, brother. Anything at all, sister. With this crowd rooting for you, there's no way you can miss the point. But remember that in times of unity, you're an individual. You can do whatever you please and respect that everyone has the right to do the same. We're all given our own distinctly unique names. Live up to it. Lift your hands in protest at those who judge us on the outside without much success, because they don't know who we are and they don't know how to deal. But at the end of the day, we'll show them how to feel, because it's our responsibility to keep on fighting for a theater that we know, for a theater that champions all of us who will never ever stop questioning. So why does theater need pump? Are you still asking? I'm going to invite the artistic director of this upstage. Okay. Sorry? Ray Charles? Yes. Do a duet with me while we strip down to our items.
Okay, just make it casual. I think it's closure, and I enjoyed your first presentation that what do you call it?
I can't remember what I did.
Some other people were offended. Because at that point in time, there was the issue of the arts.
The MBA.
And they had their own manifesto, right?
Yeah.
And some people were like, wait, what you're saying is, they were offended by it because they felt that it doesn't meet with what that manifesto was trying to achieve. It was running contrary to it. But I felt yours was a much stronger proposal than the Arts Manifesto. The Arts Manifesto is what it's called, right? So I think here is an opportunity for people, for everyone here to challenge her even further. I heard that you got banned from doing production, so what does this mean for you from now on? Kind of very humorous.
I think just to give you a guys are. So I have to just set a bit of context as to what happened. I'm by trade a full-time production manager. By trade. It's the suit, I have to talk in a certain way, right? And I've recently been fired from my job, but in a good way. And been told to go out and to pursue directing as a full-time thing. And so I've been banned from doing production work, at least for the next 2 years. Yeah, so I'm open to any questions. Just to give you a context, the show is called Taking the Subs. It's happening in about 3 weeks. 3 weeks, guys. My cast is sitting right there. Yeah,
This is the horrible song, right?
and they're the ones driving me crazy the last few months. What was I saying? Taking the Subs. Yeah. So it's going to be here in this theatre. I have to plug the show. Ticket sales, yes. It's only $15, and if you come on the first night, there's a gig going on, a hardcore show going on right after our performance. So it's kind of like a hybrid theatre gig kind of punk event. So I hope you'll join us if you like what you saw. If you didn't, then tell me what you didn't like, and then I see what you did. I'm going to shut up now, okay?
So let's just have people.
I have a question.
Sure.
I think I would be interested to hear from both the and the past. Maybe first I was wondering what were some of the assumptions that you had going into this project, and how has the process so far kind of either changed your mind or perhaps evolved this project? And for the cast, how I'm sure that not all of them are hidden trained. So coming into the process, how do you feel? What were your expectations from this project?
I let him answer first, okay?
And
This is never mind.
So honestly, after the first few rehearsal, right, I kind of regret joining. but then, yeah, I kind of got fond to the people, yes, the anything, yes, the great person.
Before we started, I told Ting, you're gonna go through hell for this. You sure you have to do this? You have to unlearn whatever that you learned in theatre, connect with the punk in such a way, and then try to bring that all back together. And I think she did a wonderful job integrating. And after a while also, I told her, can't give too much space to the punk as well. The punks have to start. It takes time to clap anyway to do something. So far, the way I see it has been a healthy exchange in terms of doing things and connecting to each other. And I think the most significant part was there was one day when we were not able to come down for rehearsal, but we all decided to just carry on. And I think that was a big step, and I think you helped us take that step. So yay!
Anyone else want to respond to that? Shah? I will tell you very honestly, but when I started it, I wasn't sure what was going to happen, and I thought that at the first stage I would just be mining stories, working with them in sort of devising things that may or may not necessarily be performed by them, because at that stage I was still afraid of aesthetically what this is going to look like, and afraid, of course, that you mentioned that people were offended by my manifesto. I was afraid that, my so-called, I'm just going to grossly generalize and say the art world is going to come and see the show and be like, seriously, directors that give money to this kind of show, really? And then I decided, right about the time when I wrote the manifesto, that was not the point. That casting real actors to do this would be wrong. That as long as they were comfortable with it, and some people have pulled out because they were not comfortable with performing or just not comfortable with being in the process with us. I I decided at some point that if they were willing and we had this platform, we have to do it this way. We have to have punks on stage performing their own story. There's no way I'm going to get away with it the way that we're presenting what we're presenting if it was professional acting. It sounds like a cop-out, but it's not, because I was so afraid of that. I was so afraid of what aesthetically this is going to look like. And then Shai Fu, who's my mentor, everybody, had to start the whole process by telling me, you know, you're never going to start on time rehearsal. You know, never going to have like, sometimes you're not going to have full cast. People are going to pull out last minute and things like that. You have to be ready for that. And I was like really worried lah. Because I'm a production manager, like everything works like clockwork. Or we try to get to everything works like clockwork. So then I had to really tell myself, you know, if I'm going to wait an hour for rehearsal to start, then wait an hour for rehearsal to start. That's my chance to get to know everybody. That's my chance to have a cigarette most of the time. And then we'll like rehearse for 45 minutes and then take a cigarette break. That kind of thing. Our 3-hour rehearsal usually like that, right? 7:30 people start to turn up. 7 o'clock start, 7:30 people start to turn up. Then we maybe start rehearsal, warm up, maybe rehearsal starts about 7:45. Then like 8:30 everybody smoke break! Then we all smoke break. And then we come back and then we do some more. Then we finish at 10. So the 3-hour rehearsal, I'm only rehearsing what? An hour and a half. So initially that scared the shit out of me, but now I've learned that actually we just need to kind of adjust. Everybody needs to adjust their perceptions. And I don't think, and my initial fears were based on an idea that theatre was meant for some specific group of people. But it's not. And when I started this, I knew instinctively I wanted to find out what kind of theatre we can make with people who are not necessarily in the, you know, gone to school for it, gone to training for it. It was kind of my experiment in the community with the punk community. So yeah, I'm rambling. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. Did I answer your question? Anything else?
Okay.
Yes.
I know you're worried about the narrative happening now. But
Okay.
what happens if punk theater becomes a grand narrative in itself?
There's two ways about it. I think that on one hand, it's either we claim grand narratives for ourselves, because punk is associated with being an alternative narrative, with being something that is not in the mainstream, right? So on one hand, I think there is that you can claim it, that punk can claim to be a grand narrative, can claim that kind of importance. The other part is to be said about it, you know, and it's happening, right? I mean, punk culture, as far as I understand, is being co-opted, being taken for its underground feel and then made into something that's cool and mainstream. I mean, just last month, Anye Bay, Agnes B, whatever you call it, was here with a gallery exhibition of photographs by Sheila Rock called Punk Plus. And it was funny because we were here scheduled for a rehearsal that night of their opening. And we were all just sitting outside, right? And then we all just went to the bar and be like, substation crew, take care. So during rehearsal we were drinking their free beer, and then came back and I know Ishraf got quite drunk.
He was working there.
He was working, yes. Sorry, I still love you. But yeah, to answer your question, we either claim it. No, actually, to answer your question, we either claim it, or we be sad about it, right? And then we continue to write our own narratives, because fuck the grand narrative. Seriously. There's no one grand narrative, right? Nobody has an authority, I just said that. Nobody has an authority on anything. So we react as it comes up. We don't have to make plans for it.
But I also feel that, you know, I think we're getting it in reverse, because the problem is that, I mean, the thing is that theatre, there's no punk theatre, because theatre in itself, in spirit, in essence, is punk. You know, it challenges, the role, the existence theatre is to challenge for both.
Yeah.
To question not necessarily the society, but the actors, the production people, the talents themselves. Right? It is supposed to be cathartic, people change, people evolve. First and foremost, the actors, the directors, the so here is, but the problem in Singapore is that part of theatre is being claimed by industry, as with a lot of other art forms in Singapore, right? So, we are losing that essence and spirit. Of course, we still have, but a lot of these are not. They don't acknowledge themselves as punk.
Yeah.
They just community theatre or political theatre and so on and so forth, right? So, for me here is on that track, what happens to your talent when they are on stage? Do they become actors, or are they, how do you transform them? Because I'm also concerned about that, the illusion, that very ephemeral, temporary moment on stage. What are they? Who are they? Are you presenting a play? Because once you present a play, then there's an illusion of it.
These people who are my actors, who are playing themselves, but also playing characters inspired by their life. So there's that element of it. And then there's also this process that we went through that I wrote something, I passed it on to them, and I said, just follow this as a structure, and then give me whatever you want to do with it. So I'm not claiming that this is going to be, non-illusional, I guess is the way to put it. I'm not claiming that this is fact or truth. We dabble in theatre because we want to make that truth interesting. And that act in itself, you can never fully present truth on stage. But you can present an illusion of truth. I'm talking in circles. But basically, they're going to be themselves, and they're going to be playing characters inspired by themselves, which is what I hope we can achieve. Because what I want people to see is that punks are human too, that punks belong in our grand narrative, or not. Maybe they chose not to, but they belong in our society, they're part of us, and we cannot go on and create art or theatre that neglects them. Yeah. Hope that answers your question. I mean, it's something I have really unpacked also. Yeah.
Because I hope the guys, the punk guys who are involved with this are also questioning you, challenging you also in the same way. Because again, here is also the same. I know they are.
Actually, they've been surprisingly very cooperative.
Well, rehearsal on time.
No, we never rehearsal on time, but other than that, they've been surprisingly quite cooperative.
No, but also I think it's also interesting for you to also talk a bit about. I know you're also doing the other program with C42. C42.
Yes.
Under
the
chair,
TFP.
right? So, how is that? Parallel journey.
How is that? Oh,
complementing each other.
Yes, it's complementing each other.
We want to talk a bit about that program. So.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So yes, I am a directing hall. I'm in more than one director's program in Singapore. The Figure Players Directors Mentorship Program is mentored by Chong Zi who is the artist company director of the Figure Players, and he has selected 3 people to mentor in a year-long program for directing. So there are 3 of us, and we're all basically doing 3 very different types of work. Like, I'm interested in device work. One of them is exploring the relationship between a director and a playwright, and I can't remember for the life of me who's the last person, not who's the last person, but what the last person is trying to do. But anyway, long story short, so basically in that program, we for this interim period, we are doing a stage reading with blocking of a local text. And so just these last 2 weeks, it's just happened. The first one was Life Choices by Olivia Yu. I don't know what And then next week, my showcase will be Hitting on Women by Video. So what's happened there is that we've been basically put in a situation where we've had to direct actors at this phase of the program, just work specifically with actors, so we've not been given any lights, barely allowed to use any sound, there's barely any set, there's barely anything, it's just actors on stage. And through the blocking and the text and things like that, and the way you manipulate the actors on stage, for lack of a better word, that's supposed to be kind of how you're going to be judged based on your directing. So I've been there and basically I've just been in conversation a lot with Chen, who enters our rehearsals and directly mentors us. And then just picking up really, really useful tips of how to coach your actors into doing things. And I've very slyly planted some of that into our rehearsals. But it's magical because I've made a very conscious effort not to dumb down what I'm doing here. Because when you kind of get the sense you're working with people who don't necessarily speak, theater speak, I guess is the question. Not theater speak, not question. I mean, dumbing down is also not the right word, but basically I'm just going to put it out there that I didn't consciously change any of those exercises to fit people who may not have experience. That's the best way to put it. Yes. Because I basically, to put it nicely, I basically decided to treat them as professional actors. If I were working with professional actors, this is how I would talk to them. Barring the fact that I will scold people like that for example, but they don't. But I'm serious, this is very serious, guys. I've consciously decided to put them through exercises that professional actors would have to go through with professional directors in the professional art world.
What were some of the photographs that you saw, right?
Yes, and even more than that, sometimes there's some stuff that's not documented, like hot seating. Like there was this exercise called the one note where you're only allowed to use 3 emotions: angry, happy, sad, and then you just. And I can tell you this, I have consistently been amazed at what they have been able to give me in return when we go through these exercises. Consistently amazed. And I'm like, some of these people here respond to those things better than some professional actors that I know. I'm not going to name names, I'm not going to say anything. But seriously, okay? And yes, it might be me having my prejudices before about them, and I'm sorry guys. But seriously, I have consistently been amazed. And just the other day, Shai, who's this man, he came up to me and he was like, so do you think we've progressed? And I was just like, yes. Then he was like, do you think we'll get to where you want us to be? Then I said, it's not. What did I say? I said, it's not where I want you guys to be, right? Yeah. Something along those. It's where you guys want to go. So it's not me, it's you. Right? And there's a lot of discussion about how, this is a big things program, we must really think proud and things like that. It's like, no, it's not me. Okay? It's not for me. It's for you. So do whatever the hell you want.
You're not a savior, right?
I'm not. I have never wanted to save them. There's no saving. I was just interested. I think I secretly want to be found. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Any more other questions?
Then we have to
Wait, we can ask. Is that people
Anybody
that?
else? Maybe the tree.
Yeah, sorry, I'm very hot.
Oh, this is bit by bit, is it?
talk about now. Hey, by the way, before I answer that question, I just find Kai friend. This is Kaya. Kaya just finished. She's also one of the participants of Directors Lab. She's just officially done with everything. So everybody please give her a round. Wow. I think we cannot say that it doesn't exist. We cannot say that hypocrisy in Punk doesn't exist. We cannot. We can't claim that absolute, because I think what interests me more is that chasing of the ideal rather than getting there in some way or other. Because I think whenever we look at ideals, because we're human, and I'm not popping out, because we're human, we will somehow or other not make it that ideal. I mean, look at these big concepts like socialism or communism, things like that. Like, I think when Karl Marx wrote his manifesto, I think he had an ideal in mind which was actually, if we got there, would have been it could have worked out. But I think humans have destroyed what Karl Marx wanted. What am I talking about, Karl Marx? Yes. But my point is, I think, sure, there are things like, you say you question everything, you say you are accepting of everybody, but homophobia exists in punk, don't even go homophobia with trouble. This is my observation now. Okay, so you all want clarification later, you ask them, okay? And these are stories that I hear lah, like, people say, hey, share everything, or be like, question everything, then they open a can of Coke and they drink. Smash capitalism, open a can of Coke. Things like that. It exists because we are humans and we can't run away from that.
Maybe to help you out, with your class and because they intrinsically live the punk culture, the punk life.
You know who's a good person to ask? Din.
Yeah.
Where did?
Toilet.
Smoke break.
Isham also actually. No, but try to help me out.
What?
Help me out.
That's one of the questions. What's the question? Hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy is punk.
Hypocrisy is human and punks are human, so that's it. I sound like I'm keeping it a very simple statement, but that's the reality of it all. Punk is very imperfect. It's as raw as you can get socially. And there are people who get along, who don't get along, who are hypocrites, who are bigots. But it's a very raw culture based on a social street mindset. So with it, there's a lot of raw edges. There's no utopia, there's no perfection. So I'm friends with people who are probably homophobic or racist or sexist. But the way I see it personally, I may not represent their views, but it's an assimilation into the punk scene, an introduction to such a more equality-based way of thinking. Some people eventually change, some people eventually don't. So this imperfection is something that I used to be very bothered with when I was younger. Now that whatever you call it, mature, but I'm more accepting of an imperfect reality. But this is the reality that I have become so comfortable with. So there's a constant need. It's like religion, It's like there's a constant need to question everything and to see what works well for you. The same applies to the punk scene, and I work in theatre as well. So I have all these contradictions coming to me, questioning myself as I go along. But yeah, I hope that answers the question. There is no black and white within punk. There's a lot of grey areas, and there will always be grey areas because at the end of the day, we are humans.
And I think the point is to accept those grey areas. in the knowledge that you are, in accepting those things, you are living up to your own ideals. And I seriously strongly believe that my manifesto or here, these are my ideals. And what I'm going to do is just to live by those things. I mean, sure, just to share a little bit, after this year, I've been thinking about it and discussing with them, and we want to make punk theatre an annually, something that can happen annually, whether it's the same scale or whether it's something smaller or bigger for that matter. And the first question, because I'm a production manager, is like, oh, I got to find money. So the thing is, I'm going to do it, whether or not I get that money. Yeah. And I'm going to make sure it happens. I'm going to basically do the stuff like, if they're going to stand by their punk ideals, I will go and be the whore and go and be like, guys, we have a show, we're going to take it, please. Because I think that's not me putting my ideals down, that's me trying to get somewhere and doing something consistently with them. And I hope that in future, in the next year or so, next 2 years, we can go on to do even greater things, and I don't care, honestly, whether NEC likes it or not, just do lah, see what happens. It's time, right? I guess we'll still be around if you want to ask me questions personally. Are you shy about opening your mouth? And if you have any feedback whatsoever, I know I didn't give much to see lah, but then if you have any feedback whatsoever, if you think I'm stupid, tell me. I'll be outside having a cigarette.
Smoke break.